pre-approval process is a little different than pre-qualification, but I also wanted to kind of get to a point where, hey, what can happen later? So if I'm pre-approved, I mean, there's a possibility that I could become unpre-approved, and so there's certain things to watch on that as well.
Yeah, there are a lot of things, obviously, in the process that can happen that can hinder. Somebody could have a job loss. They could just, quite frankly, spend their money. They could acquire new debt during the period of time upon which the purchase is supposed to close. But typically, pre-approval versus pre-qualification, the major difference is that all facts are checked, and the only two hurdles that the buyer should have to closing on that new property are going to be clean title and the property appraising and having no issues with it, meaning no mechanical issues or what we refer to as livability issues.
Yeah, I think it's important to note, though, that once you get pre-approved, and if you do it the full way, I mean, pre-qualified, hey, yeah, here's what I make, and, what do I qualify for? But pre-approval,
and I can tell you that the most frustrating thing about my end of the business is all too often people think they're pre-approved, and I tell people, if your lender hasn't requested 2 years taxes, 2 years W-2s, your last 2 pay stubs, your last 2 bank statements, name of your homeowners association, you're not pre-approved. You need all of that data in order to be pre-approved. So if they don't have that, just getting your credit pulled and you telling them, hey, I make X amount of dollars, per year is my base salary. Well, there are other things that factor into your income. If you've claimed a loss because of a side business, your wife sells Tupperware or something, well, that's going to come into account, and you might only think, well, it's only a couple $1,000s, but you've been on the backside of enough transactions, Chris, where $2,000 a year in income is the difference between a loan closing and not closing. Well, and I always have the conversation with my borrowers that just because you're pre-approved doesn't mean you get to go out and look and purchase the new furniture for your new home. No transactions, no matter how big or small, shall happen until you've consulted me, and that way we know you're going to stay approved.
It's true, because we've had a lot of deals fall apart at the end for just silly little things like that, just not being informed.
Well, and I'll interject there. One of the things you brought up, the no interest, no payment, so the buyer thinks, well, it's not a big deal. I don't have a payment. But those are some of the hardest things to get through because conventional and FHA guidelines require us, if there's no payment due and we can't prove a payment, to take 5% of whatever the outstanding balance is. Mm-hmm. So you bought $2,000 worth of furniture. You've now got a $100 payment. And for the average family, that's going to affect your debt-to-income ratio for qualifying significantly.